Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another video at my YouTube channel. This video footage was actually filmed a few weeks ago, and I hopped on YouTube Live really unexpectedly on a Sunday afternoon and just painted this card. It's a bunch of no-line watercoloring using the Furry Friends stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is a stamp set that I designed and illustrated myself, so creating this particular card was extra special for me. And the first thing I did was I stamped my images in some antique linen distress ink. I just lined up those animals in, three of them kind of on a line. And I thought I would paint them all together in one scene. I also stamped the little heart balloon from the stamp set kind of up above the cat. And I'm going to be painting this entire scene with distress inks. So I'm using all of my mini distress inks in this palette from Stamp and Storage. It's actually just a clear insert that goes inside their drawer units. But I like to pull it out of the drawer and just bring it to my workspace so I can look at all of the different colors and decide how I want to use them. So, the way that I watercolor with distress inks is I smush the ink pads down onto a slick surface and then pick up the ink with a wet paintbrush. So, this is an Art Impressions palette. It's gotten stained over the years, but it's very clean and I shouldn't have any trouble picking up those colors. The first animal that I'm painting is the bunny, and I'm starting out with some scattered straw. Whenever I've done no line coloring with bunnies or rabbits, I love this color combination. It's a very warm tan yellow, and I do the scattered straw and I do a full layer of that, kind of adding in as much shading as I can. And then I come back and add in a little bit of vintage photo. And those two colors combined are just beautiful, I think. I think the vintage photo, the kind of more golden warmth of vintage photo, really lends itself to that golden warmth in scattered straw. So those are the two colors I kind of like to use for bunnies and rabbits. So here you can see I'm bringing in that vintage photo. It's such a great brown. It's just a nice warm brown that works so well with so many other colors in the Distress Ink palette. So I'm just adding a bunch of shading onto this bunny. And the thing that I wanted to mention, and I've mentioned it in the past when it comes to this no line watercoloring technique, is that the thing that makes these illustrations look so amazing, kind of pop, is when you have really dark darks and really light lights. You want quite a bit of contrast. By having some really dark edges, it sort of creates the line of the image. So you don't necessarily need to have a stamped line showing. And I guess I should back up. For those of you who are unfamiliar with no line watercoloring or no line coloring, you can do it with other mediums. The whole idea behind it is that you take a stamped image or a stamp and you stamp it onto your project paper, surface, whatever you're working on, in a very light ink, so that as you add your colors, it sort of makes the line disappear. So that's why they call it no line coloring, because you're kind of hiding where the lines are. And it really lends itself to an illustrative look, almost like a storybook. It's really fun to do this. And it also gives you the opportunity to change anything on the image. I've seen people change the expression on animals or change the eyes. There are a lot of people stamps out there that are very stylized that don't have noses. So if you are doing the no line watercoloring technique, you can add a nose and shade it on there. It really gives you the opportunity to make the image your own. I think even more than a regular stamped image with like a black line would. Moving on to this bear here. And as I was painting this, I thought, oh, I don't want to make the bear brown because the bunny has a lot of brown in it. But what other color are bears? They're black. They're gray and black. I guess I could have done a polar bear, but I decided to make this one black. And as I move along here, then I realize, oh, I can't make the cat gray like I would for my two cats, Sophie and Daphne. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that practically every cat that I paint looks like Sophie and Daphne. Or going back to previous cats, my cat Manny, who I had before I had the girls, every cat that I painted or colored back then was colored like Manny. And my two cats that I have currently are silver tabbies. So at this point, I thought, oh no, I have made a misstep in painting this bear black, because now it's going to look just like too much gray on this scene here if I have the cat also be all gray. So I decided I would go back to my previous cat, Manny, who was white and black. And I thought it's not quite gray. It would give it a little bit more interest. So I decided to paint this little kitty like my cat, Manny. So Manny had kind of like a half black, half white face. It's very distinctive. He actually looks quite a bit like some cats that my friends also have. Jen Shirkus has a cat, Mr. Harley, that has a very similar coloring. And my cat, Jana, not my cat, my friend, Jana Millen, she would not be offended if I called her a cat because she loves cats. But Jana's cat, oh gosh, Kirby. I had to think for a minute there. Her cat Kirby looks very similar to how my Manny looked. I'm coloring this balloon with some picked raspberry distress ink. And after I have a layer of this pink on the balloon, I'm going to go back to my palette and pick up a more intense purple. I'm going to be using Seedless Preserves to intensify the edges on this balloon. I love these two colors together. Just like I love Scattered Straw and Vintage Photo together, I love Picked Raspberry and Seedless Preserves. For the area underneath the animals, I decided to use pine needles, which is one of those colors in distress ink that I rarely ever use. I don't know why. It's such a beautiful green, like an kind of a really intense jade emerald green, especially when you paint it. For under the cat, because I did stamp the cat a little bit higher up than the other animals, I penciled on a pillow shape, and the cat is going to be sleeping on a pillow. If any of you have cats out there, you know cats love sleeping on pillows and, kind of right on the edge of a couch cushion. All of my cats have loved doing that. I used some tumbled glass and peacock feathers to paint in the kind of sky area behind the animals. I tipped my board around. I turned it upside down so that it would be a little bit easier to paint the more intense color at the bottom near the animals and have it kind of fade off at the top. This is just giving it a little bit more interest in that area. I'm going to hit that with my heat tool, and then the painting portion is pretty much done. I will add one little detail here at the end, but for now, all of the painting is complete. So I removed it from my board, and then I picked out a greeting from the stamp set to go right below the animals, right in this green space here at the bottom. That was always my plan. I like how the cat's tail comes down below and it kind of hugs that area. I thought it would be the perfect spot for a greeting. I prepped that area with an anti-static powder tool and then stamped the greeting in Versamark ink. And this gives me a really sharp stamped line of text. I then used some alabaster embossing powder from Burtis Monroe and applied that right over that greeting area. Now, this embossing powder did stick to some of the areas on the animals just because even though everything was dry to the touch, the paper just retained a little bit of moisture. So I brought over a dry brush, a nice clean paintbrush, and swept away any of that embossing powder. Super easy to fix something like that when it happens. I hit it with my heat tool until it was smooth and melted, and then I grabbed my A7 layers dies. Oh, actually, we're not there yet. We are going to do a little bit of detail work on the balloon first. I grabbed a black marker and drew on that string just to finish off that scene. And then I grabbed my A7 layers dies from Waffle Flower. I picked out one that was a little smaller than A7 and kind of sized it over my scene to make sure I wouldn't be cutting off too much. I taped it down to my watercolor piece with the tape mostly outside of the die, and I ran that through my die cutting machine. And that cuts out the perfect size and dimension to go onto an A7 card base. Speaking of that card base, I'm going to create it out of some Midnight cardstock from Concord and Ninth. This paper here is cut to 10 inches wide by 7 inches tall so that I could score it at 5 inches and fold it down into an A7 card. I put a bunch of foam adhesive behind the watercolor piece and then adhered that to the front of the card. Now, remember when I said that the watercoloring wasn't completely finished? I decided I wanted to add a little bit of a pattern to that balloon. So I grabbed some more of that Seedless Preserves and came in with a small paintbrush and painted on some little dots. And I think that just finishes off this scene here really well. So that's everything. That's all I have for you for my card today. In total, I think this took me about 90 minutes to paint and assemble onto a card front. It was a ton of fun. And for those of you who were there watching it live while I was creating it, thank you for joining me. If you would like to pick up this stamp set, head on over to simonsastamp.com. I will have links down below in the video description for everything I used in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in another video very soon.